Hello everyone, welcome to this dashboard which talks about the various analysis that is possible with the data that we got from the New York City Health Department's quality inspections of all the various restaurants that are under its jurisdiction. So we got this data and uh, we have done some analysis on this data just to show over a period of time how the inspections have uh, uh, sp- uh, spanned across the various years and what they have achieved and what is the effect of the inspections that have been done. So we started with a dashboard which shows three charts. The topmost chart shows that across the years 2011 to 2014, how increasingly many restaurants have been covered under the quality inspection or health inspection exercise. And over these years, uh, uh, the second chart or the visual shows how the various critical violations have spanned out across the same time period from 2011 to 2014. And not only that, the last but not the least, the third visual talks about the trend of the critical violations with respect to the total number of restaurants that have been covered. So basically here the story is from if we consider the time periods from 2011 to 2014, the health department of the New York City is able to cover more and more restaurants as part of the ongoing exercise. It started around 9,200 restaurants in 2011, but by the time 2014 has been done, you have around 24,124 total number of restaurants covered. That is a huge jump. It's almost 3 times over 4 years. And in this time period, if we look at the number of violations that have been recorded as critical, they have remained the same. The top 3 or 4 critical violations being contamination, cleanliness, temperature, and sanitation. Temperature here talks about cold food not being maintained as cold, warm food not being maintained as warm, so on and so forth. And then cleanliness and contamination. Contamination is raw food being mixed with cooked food or cooked food being mixed with raw food. As you can see over the years 2011 to 2014, contamination has remained as the topmost critical violation, and as the number of restaurants that are being covered, the count increased, the contamination also increased sort of proportionately. So from 2011 to 12, you see almost more than 2 times, 2x increase. And after that, sort of, it is uh, not, it has plateaued out. From 2011 to 12, there's a huge increase, but then after 12, beginning 13 and 14, it has not increased that much, and that is also sort of proportionate to the number of restaurants that have been covered as part of the whole exercise. And this particular proportion is reflected in the third chart, which shows that across the 5 boroughs within the New York City's jurisdiction, Bronx, Brooklyn, Manhattan, Queens, and Staten Island, you see that the figures that are uh, being plotted there are ratios. Basically, the total number of critical violations upon the total number of restaurants. And you see the proportion has slightly increased in 2012, but beginning 13 and 14, they have come down except for Staten Island. So this is a good news, even though the number of violations have gone up, but proportionately they've come down if we consider that the total number of restaurants also have gone up. So the same story is being reiterated in the next chart, where we see across the 5 boroughs and across the years 2011 to 14, we see the restaurant counts being uh, distributed across the various grades. And obviously, you would see that for the year 2014 for Manhattan, the number of restaurants have increased almost, like you have 11,000 restaurants, out of which almost 8,619 restaurants have been graded as A. So the same story continued with Brooklyn, with Queens, with Bronx, and with Staten Island. So there is a reiteration of the trend that we saw earlier in here. And if you just look at only the grade A restaurants, uh, we see that the grade A restaurants are only increasing as time goes by, and this is really a good news because even though the number of restaurants have increased, there's a lot of violation, but those restaurants which have been graded as A, thereby identified as the most healthy restaurants to eat out, they are steadily increasing, and that's a real good news. Across the years, across the counties, the trend is the same and it has been increasing. So this proves that this whole grading exercise is really popular. A lot of restaurants are being covered, and lot many more restaurants are graded as A. And so the whole exercise that the New York City Health Department is carrying out should be benefiting all the population which eats out, thereby ensuring safe food and clean food for the population, thereby reducing the incidence of uh, health problems due to eating out. And just one more thing, uh, uh, if you look at the most popular cuisines that are there, American being the very obvious one, because this is New York, the center of American culture, so you should have a lot of restaurants which serve American food. But Chinese comes a close second. But the main difference is their dirtiness index, so-called dirtiness index. What is dirtiness index? Again, we have seen that earlier in the dashboard. This dirtiness index talks about the total number of critical violations that have been found vis-a-vis the total number of restaurants. But this is within a specific cuisine. So this is American. So there are 5,262 total number of restaurants, of which if you see the proportion of the critical violations, those are not very high. It's only 3.99. Whereas for Chinese, even though the number of restaurants are almost half of American, the proportion of critical violation is quite high, and so the color also reflects accordingly. There is a nice way of looking at it. So if you look at the whole trend beginning year 2011 to 2014, again the same story is reiterated, that we are looking at more and more number of restaurants being covered. American obviously is number one. I think in the previous year, somewhere around 2012, Italian was also quite popular, but Chinese was really dirty with 6.33 in the year 2012. But the dirtiness of the Chinese restaurants or the Chinese food is gradually coming down. It is in 2013 it is 5.91, whereas in 2014 it's 5.30. So this clearly shows that the whole exercise that the New York City Health Department is taking is bearing fruit, and food and the cuisine and the restaurants are becoming better and better and better as the day goes by. So that is the whole crux of the narrative and the story here, that this exercise that has been taken up by the New York City Health Department is bearing fruit, and the data clearly reflects this trend. Thank you.